one of the techs here, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about underneath your car, different things, give you some info, let you look underneath. So anybody that wants to, actually everybody can come on underneath the car here, and I'll just get started. Talk about a few things. How many people bought warranties for their vehicle? A couple people? Okay, just want to go over a little bit of that. Different things as far as like seeps, leaks, and different types of things like that. So what we would consider a seep is something up here, come on underneath here, where you can see the vehicle is a little bit moist here, but there's no actual drips or anything like that. So something like this, the warranty company would not cover. If it was actually dripping, leaving a puddle on the ground, something like that, then they would cover an item like that most of the time. So just different types of fluids that you might see that might be a concern. Oil here, this is what all these fluids look like new. So you got engine oil up here, and over time it just gets darker and black from the process of combustion and that kind of thing. Transmission fluid is red. There's a few out there that are like blue. Coolant is either green, red, orange, pink, a bunch of different colors as far as coolant goes. The other thing as far as coolant goes is that if you do lose coolant out of your vehicle, you want to make sure that you put the right type of coolant back in the vehicle. Seems like every manufacturer has their own type of coolant they want to use. And of course, you know, they don't make them compatible with the other ones. Brake fluid's clear. Over time it gets darker, also actually collects moisture. So there's a moisture test we can do to make sure that, that it doesn't have too much moisture in it. And then power steering fluid. So the most important thing on the fluids is, you know, if you see something dripping on the floor, it kind of gives you an idea of what it might be by the color of the fluid. If it's a small drip, you know, bring it in, let us check, let us look at it for you, and we can tell you what it is. Most of the time though, it seems like cars are being pretty well built these days, so you don't have to worry a whole lot about that. Of course, things happen, so you never know. So anyway, we'll start at the front. This is the oil pan of the car. This is the transmission pan of the car. Over here on this side, these are the CV axles. So this right here assembly is the CV axle. There's a boot on either end of it. On the other side of the car, same thing. If it's an all-wheel drive car, usually they'll have the same setup in the back also. So what you want to look for on that is you just want to make sure that the boots aren't cracked, dry rotted, or spewing any kind of grease out. Usually if there's a hole in one, you'll see it around the inside of the wheel well or on the inside of the tire. The other thing is once they get a hole in them, usually within 3,000 to 5,000 miles, the axles are no good. They just have such a close tolerance in there. Once there's any kind of little bit of dirt in there, they go bad really fast. So we always look that over. Anytime somebody wants to come in and look under their car while we're servicing it, just get a hold of one of the service advisors. They'll walk you out here. You can look under the car. We have an open door policy. We figure we have nothing to hide. We'd rather come out, show you exactly what's wrong with the vehicle, and then you can make an informed decision. So that's kind of our policy as far as coming out and looking under your car or anything like that. So anytime you want to do that, you can just ask and they'll come out and show you underneath or show you whatever's going on with it. So some more here. This is the exhaust. This car actually has about 85,000 miles on it. Here in Colorado, we don't have to worry about exhaust rusting out too much. You can see a little bit of surface rust on there, but as a general rule of thumb, the way they make exhaust anymore, not too many mufflers and stuff like that rot out. Occasionally we get them, but not too much. Couple things you've probably heard about: an oxygen sensor. This is one oxygen sensor right here. So that's kind of what it looks like. This right here is actually the catalytic converter. They look different on all different types of car, but on this particular car, this is the catalytic converter right here. This car actually has 3 oxygen sensors, so there's one there, and the other 2 are kind of hard to see, but one is way up there and one is on the other side. So this is a V6 motor, so there's an oxygen sensor for each side of the engine. And then this one back here is what they call the catalyst monitor sensor, and it tells the computer how well this catalytic converter is doing. Oxygen sensors, basically what they do is they're like a fine-tuning for the computer. So they send a signal to the computer, whether it's rich or lean, more gas or less gas, as far as it goes. The main thing for the computers, its main job is best performance, best mileage, and emissions to save this catalytic converter and help it to do its best job possible. This is the main emission component on all the vehicles, is this catalytic converter. So they want to make that catalytic converter last as long as possible, and that's what mainly all of the sensors are for. Most oxygen sensors aren't going to cause, a stalling problem, hard start, misfire, or anything like that. Mainly, like I say, that's just a fine tuning for the computer. See some other things here. Step outside here. We'll talk about the brakes a little bit. And this car has two different types of brake systems. There's drum brakes and disc brakes. This is a disc brake system here. So this is the rotor, and this is the caliper. There's brake pads inside there that wear, and what the caliper does is it squeezes together on that rotor to make you slow down. We'll move to the back here in a minute, and I'll show you the drum brakes. But there's a material in there that's designed to wear out. That's why you need brakes. If it goes too far, then it actually gets into the metal backing, and usually once it does that, it doesn't take long for the rotors to be below specs. They make everything really close tolerances anymore. Different types of suspension system. This is called suspension strut right here. It's actually the shock absorber and the spring all combined into one unit. So it's an integral part of the front suspension. So like say the spring and the shock is all in one unit right there where the light is pointing. That's the top of it, and what you want to do is you want to just make sure that there's no leaks, moisture, anything like that. Again, a little bit of moisture around the top of that seal is okay, but if that whole strut is covered with oil, then it probably needs to be replaced. It's just the seals have gone out of it and need to be replaced. Some other things to look for that we look at when we're underneath your car is the tires. I'll get to those back brakes in just a minute, but the other thing we want to look for is the tires. So what you want to look for on the tires, this one here, you can see it's kind of worn down the middle, so it was probably underinflated. It's also real cracked, so this tire is pretty old. It's dry cracked, so we're going to replace the tires, two of the tires on this. Yeah, you can. Yeah, and the minimum tread depth, you can see right here. There's a line in the tire, right there, and that is the tread wear indicator. And when the tread is even with that, that means it's time to replace the tires. That makes them illegal in most states. So that's one thing you want to look for. The other thing with tire wear you want to look for is if it's worn on the straight down the middle, like I said on that one, that means it's probably been overinflated. If it's worn on both sides evenly, that means it's probably underinflated. If it's worn to one side or the other, that usually indicates an alignment problem. So as far as balancing goes, if you're driving down the road and the vehicle's shaking, that usually indicates a balance problem. Or if the tire is cupped a little bit, that could also indicate a balance problem. So if you hit the brakes and the car shakes, that usually indicates that these rotors are actually out of round, they've been overheated, or they're too thin, or something like that. If you ever have any questions, like say, just feel free to ask. We'll just move back here to the back real quick, and then I think I'll be about done. So this is the other type of braking system. It's called drum brakes, and it has two shoes here. So this is what wears, is this part right here, and the drum right there is right there. And so what happens is you push on the brake pedal and these shoes expand outward like that, and that would help, is what makes you slow down. This also incorporates the parking brake. They don't call it an emergency brake because that would indicate that you're going to have a braking emergency, so the dealers don't call it an emergency brake anymore. It's a parking brake. And again, what that does is it pulls that little lever, moves those shoes out so the car doesn't roll.